Hi, BK. It's Mr. Matt and Miss Elina.
Hi.
And we are here for week number 25.
Woo!
That is mind-blowing. 25 weeks of BK online, and we're ready for 25 more. We are here to stay. We love you guys. We're so excited that you decided to join us. Maybe you have friends on this week.
We hope so.
And if there are visitors,
Hi.
How are you? Hope you had a great week as well. Everybody, before we jump in, let's do some worship.
Long before time began, and after we've reached the end, you are over all things, Jesus, you alone reign. Nations and kings may rise, hearts may be filled with pride. You are over all things, Jesus, you alone reign. Whether great or small, you rule them all.
Welcome back, BK.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that time of worship. Let's jump into the Bible story. Okay, so over the last couple of weeks, who have we been learning about? Miss Elina.
David.
David. That is correct. We have learned that David was chosen. We have learned that David is brave. We have learned that David is kind. We have learned that David is merciful. We also have learned that David was promised by God. 5 amazing character traits that are almost too good to be true. However, this week, David. This week we learned that David sinned. But we also learned that David was just a normal human being. Anyone born on earth is born with a sinful nature, and we are not perfect. There's only one person who was born on this earth who is perfect, and his name is Jesus Christ. Now, David was a man after God's own heart. The Bible says that, but he still made mistakes. And this is talking about one of his bigger mistakes, we should say. So one of his bigger mistakes where he sinned, then he lied about it, then he tried to cover it up, and then God exposed it by sending a prophet to call him out on his sin. And then David repented, and God placed him back on the right track in the right direction. So, we're learning that David wasn't perfect. David was a very good man, a hero of the faith, an MVP, if you want to call him, of the Bible. But we also learn in this story that he wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, just like you and I will make mistakes. But God is always there to dust us off, pick us up, give us a pep talk, and get us right back on the right track. So we are very excited for you to listen to this story. Now, also, what a big thing that we've been talking about over the last couple weeks is our big picture question for this unit. Now, do you remember our big picture question for this unit? If you don't, our big picture question is, how is Jesus the perfect king? Perfect, 100%, no fault. How is Jesus the perfect king? Think about it. The answer is, Miss Elina?
Jesus perfectly rules over the universe as King of Kings.
That is the answer. How is Jesus the perfect king? He perfectly rules over the universe as the King of Kings. The best, the greatest, never been done before, King of Kings. So, that is our big picture question, all right? Hope you got that in your brain. Another thing that we hope that you got in your brain is
our memory verse.
Our memory verse, which is Psalm 145:13. And it goes like this.
Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. Your dominion endures throughout all generations. The Lord is faithful in all his words and kind in all his works.
We have done this now, I think, for
quite a while.
5 weeks. So you should know it by now.
Uh-huh.
If you don't, it is, for one more time, Psalm 145:13. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. Your dominion endures throughout all generations. The Lord is faithful in all his words and kind in all his works. All right, so you know what to do. But if you don't know what to do, here is what you need to do.
You gotta record yourself saying the verse along with the hand motions.
With the hand motions.
And you have to send it via email to us, bridgekids4sq@gmail.com.
It's going to be right on the screen right there.
Hopefully. And when you do that and we check it out, we will send you a McDonald's gift card.
$5. And you can get whatever you want.
Uh-huh.
And on top of that, there will be 2 BK bucks waiting for you when we get to meet back in person. Okay? That is the rules. That is how it goes. Get learning on that memory verse.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing that we do every week that is so much fun. I love it. I always love doing this. It's our family activity for the week. Now, anyone can participate in this one. This one is a little bit more crafty, you could say. So, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get a plastic cup.
Plastic, paper, any disposable cup.
Any disposable cup that you can poke holes into, okay?
Safely.
Safely, yes. Obviously, do this with adult supervision. Okay, you're gonna take a plastic disposable cup, poke a hole through it, or 2, or 3, or a lot of them, and then, Miss Elina, what are you gonna do with those?
You're gonna get some putty, or maybe some tape, or maybe like you want to make a little spitball.
Or like melted crayons,
Melted crayons,
glue,
what else?
cotton balls.
Cotton balls. That's a fun one.
That is a fun one.
Dirt.
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh.
Mhm.
Putty.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Broken down crackers and wet them. I'm sure that might work.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Peanut butter.
Get creative. Jelly? Marshmallows? Who knows? The world is your oyster.
Peas.
Frozen peas. Anyways, you are gonna try and make that cup to where no water comes out of it. So basically trying to make that cup whole again.
Trying to restore it.
Trying to restore it because, like the cup, it is very holy and it's obviously not perfect. But then the Creator comes in and tries to restore it. And that is how our family activity connects with our Bible story. Because David was sinful as we are sinful. We have holes in our heart, which God comes in and he restores them perfectly. Every single time. BK, we love you. You can do this. You got it this week. Okay? Say this. I am a child of God. You gotta say it.
A little louder.
Yeah, you gotta say it. Ready? One more time. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. God's got you this week. We are praying for you. Go attack this week.
Love you.
Love you. See you
Bye.
next week. Bye.
David was the king of Israel. One spring, David sent out the army, but he put another man in charge of them. David stayed in Jerusalem. One evening, David looked out from his palace and saw a beautiful woman named Bathsheba. Bathsheba was the wife of Uriah, one of the best warriors in David's army. David sent his messengers to get Bathsheba, and she came to David's house. Later, Bathsheba told David that she was going to have a baby. The baby would be David's.
David knew what he had done was wrong. David should not have a baby with someone who is not his wife. So David made a plan to make sure no one found out that Bathsheba's baby was his. David called Uriah home from the battle and told him to go spend time with his wife. But Uriah didn't think it was fair for him to relax at home while the other men were at war. He slept on David's doorstep and refused to visit his wife. So David made up another plan.
He instructed Joab, the leader of the army, to send Uriah into the hardest part of the battle so he would be killed. This time, David's plan worked. Uriah was killed in battle. David took Bathsheba into his house to be his wife, and she had a baby boy. God knew what David had done. He was not happy with David. God sent Nathan the prophet to talk to David. Nathan told David a story. A traveler came to a rich man who had many animals. The rich man did not offer his own animal. Instead, he took a poor man's lamb, the only lamb he had, and gave it to the traveler to eat. This story made David feel angry. The rich man should die, David said. You are the man. Nathan said.
God had given David a position of great power, and David took what wasn't his. David realized he had sinned against God. David deserved to die. You won't die for this, Nathan assured David, but God will punish you. Your son will die instead.
David confessed his sin and prayed, God, create a clean heart for me. David realized he could try to please God with sacrifices, but that wouldn't be enough to pay for his sin. God wanted David's heart to change so that he would not want to sin again.
When David sinned against God, God forgave him, but sin always comes with a price. God spared David's life, but David's son died. When we sin, we deserve death, but we can receive God's forgiveness because God sent his son, Jesus, to pay the price for our sin.
Hi there, I'm Pastor Brian, and it's time for Questions from Kids. Beth from Topeka, Kansas asks,
I did some things I know are wrong, and I told God I was sorry, but I still feel guilty. Does God always forgive?
Beth, we see God's forgiveness today in the Bible story, don't we? We see that David had sinned with Bathsheba, and some time had passed. Actually, it could have been about a year. And David is confronted by Nathan. God sends Nathan to go talk to David, and Nathan points out how David had sinned so long ago. And what did David do? He confessed his sin. He said he was sorry. And then we see that God forgave him completely. Even though all that time had passed, God is a forgiving God. That's what we see in this account. Now, here's the thing. We know that God forgave David because God knew what he would do for that sin, that he would send Jesus to pay for that sin and every other sin that David had committed. And that is why God accepted David's repentance. And that's why he accepts ours as well. So when we sin, if we've trusted in God, all of our sin is forgiven. All the sin that we've committed before, all the sin that we will commit, it's all forgiven by God. That's why when we sin, what we want to do is we want to confess that sin, telling God that we know we've messed up, we know we've done something wrong, but then we quickly recognize that we are forgiven of that sin, that God has given us Jesus to pay for that sin. That's why we don't have to feel guilty about it. That's why we don't have to feel like we have to do something to earn God's forgiveness back because of that sin. No, it's already been dealt with by Jesus on the cross. This should give us great joy. So when we sin, we ask God for forgiveness, we understand He's forgiven us, that gives us joy so that we live from that day forward turning away from sin. Not wanting to continue to sin knowing that we're forgiven, but instead wanting to live for God joyfully, gratefully, because all of our sin is forgiven because He's such a good God. So here's a question. Why do you think it can be so difficult for us to believe we are fully forgiven by God?